All right, picking back up with project preferences. Um, so now, again, we're talking about project preferences, and we are talking about the zones and the information that's going to be coming out of the zone within the project preferences. Typically, I don't adjust this too much, um, but if you, for some reason, need some more accurate information to come out of this, um, you can adjust this. And this is just basically saying that if you have a recess that's deeper than zero point 0.2 feet, it is going to it's going to calculate that. And if it's larger um, than 0.01, so if it's deeper than zero point 0.2 and it's larger than zero point 0.1. And then with the wall and column subtraction, so it's going to subtract columns and walls that are larger than zero point 0.1 square feet. And I think that this is being determined. Let me see here. Yeah. So yeah, within zones, it's going to add. It's going to calculate the area when you use the zone, or calculate the zone and include things that are basically larger than um, zero point zero 0.01 or whatever within the zone, so that if you have like a column that you're using as like a railing, or a some sort of small detail piece, um, then it's not going to subtract that, because it is part of, you're not going to subtract that little bit of information, because overall it's still part of the gross square footage that you're trying to calculate. And then this is also if you wanted to subtract the area that is in a low ceiling. So this would be good if you wanted to have habitable space in like in an attic, and you wanted it to be, if it was lower than 6 feet, then you subtract that from the zone calculation. So maybe if you wanted to see if how much of that space is actually usable, you could use this to calculate the reduction necessary to automatically, so that you could do it without having to go through in section and measure all the different areas that are not viable. So next, this is kind of the project datum points, and this is also is actually adjusted somewhere else. So typically project 0 is 100 feet, and then sea level is negative 100 feet. But if you actually wanted to set your project to state plane, you could go in here and say that this reference level, so let's just do this. So you could say this reference level is actually, so if your building was, 52, well, for instance, there's a project I'm working on, it's 2,600 feet and 0.4 inches above grade level. So I could also go back and set, so sea level would be at 0, project 0 is at 100 feet, but my reference level is at negative 2,500 feet, and then project 0 is at 100, so that makes my 2,600 feet above sea level accurate, and then this gives me enough room to be able to go up or down to whatever levels that I need to. And then finally, legacy. So in older versions of Archicad, they showed information slightly different. And if you're migrating from older versions to newer versions, sometimes you want to maintain some of the legacy methods. So you can click on here and get more information about each of these. But if you're starting Archicad from scratch from version 20, I wouldn't worry about these unless you are migrating older versions of Archicad. But even then, I tend to stay away from kind of legacy methods, and I think that, but sometimes they are necessary. So again, really quickly to cover it, you have dimensions. You're going to be able to adjust the way your information is represented from measurements and calculations, and you already have a lot of presets. And then calculations in units is how the information is actually represented on your schedules, or when you're doing takeoffs that are automatically being pulled from the model. This is the area that will, how that information will be represented. And zones, what information do you want to be included or excluded from your area calculations from your zone tool, which is right here. And then you have reference levels. So in here you would adjust the height and the basic information that you would use to kind of set up your project from the start. And I recommend figuring out where your building is, or where it should be, or where you want it to be before you get started, because it can affect the way walls will show up, or the way information will show up, and it'll just it's good to set it up initially. And that's why I kind of want to cover these basic setup guides first, so that you understand where things are and where you should adjust them. If you have that information, just go ahead and start to play with it and adjust it as necessary. And then legacy information, which you shouldn't have to worry about too much. But the one thing, how information is displayed above and below the story, you might have a preference or a special line type that you want to use, but this other legacy information you don't necessarily need to adjust if you're new to ArchiCAD 20. Okay, thanks. See you in the next lesson.